Tulsa, Oklahoma was the largest community within range of tiny Rentisville. Life there was utterly different from anything John Hope had known.
Tulsa had a fascination for us in Rentisville very early. And each time my father would come back, it seemed that his eyes were brighter and brighter as he told us about Tulsa. It was a wonderful city, and I began to think it was even a magical city. We could not wait until it was our turn to come, except it didn't happen.
In 1921, in a crowded Tulsa elevator, a black man known only as Roland stepped on a white woman's toe and they argued. The story spread quickly. Soon, a meaningless accident was described as a sexual assault. The city exploded in fury. Posses rode and torches flamed. And Tulsa was not the only flashpoint in a time when the nation was rife with ethnic antagonism. There were riots in East St. Louis, Illinois, Elaine, Arkansas, Washington, D.C., and a particularly bloody riot in Chicago, all in a 3-year period.
It was an awful, awful experience, and it went on for several days. The fights, the bombing of the community, the setting of the torch to the entire black section of town. And within a matter of days, it was in ruins, complete ruins. The remarkable thing is that after all of this conflagration, all of this destruction and whatnot, the young man, Roland, who had been accused of assaulting the white woman, was tried and was acquitted of any wrongdoing. And thus it became dramatically and tragically clear that all of this was for nothing, that the whole town had burned down for no good reason. The riot in Tulsa was not unique. There had been riots upon riots in this country in the previous 3 or 4 years. So much so that James Weldon Johnson called the summer of 1919 the Red Summer, because so much blood seemed to have flowed in that year as a result of the riots. My father's office was burned to the ground. All of his books and papers were destroyed. The house that he lived in, that we hoped to move to, that was burned to the ground. Everything was gone. And it would take literally years to rebuild. And there were 4 more years in Rentisville. After my father's office was destroyed, he and his partners opened their offices in a tent.
Greenwood, the focus of black life in Tulsa, rebuilt upon its own ashes. By 1925, it had become a thriving business community, filled with so many entrepreneurs that it was called the Black Wall Street of America. John Hope was encouraged by his parents to take advantage of Tulsa's educational and cultural opportunities. But when he and his sister decided to attend the Chicago Civic Opera's performance in Tulsa, he made a choice he regrets to this day.
My mother and my father, being very liberal in their training and upbringing of their children up to a point, said that if we wanted to subject ourselves to the segregation at Convention Hall, they could not do that. My mother and my father never voluntarily segregated themselves. They had to be segregated by law, riding, trains, and that sort of thing. But they didn't have to go to the opera, and so they didn't go. But if we wanted to do that, they said, well, go ahead. And you know, even sometimes today, I reproach myself for loving the opera as I do, because I learned it under circumstances which were beneath my mother and my father. And it should have been beneath me, even if I'd never learned La Traviata, La Bohème, or Aida, or anything else. I shouldn't have gone to Convention Hall. This is Greenwood. Greenwood Street, known in my time when I was a youngster growing up as Deep Greenwood. After the riot in 1921, which burned everything out, it came back with a burst of enthusiasm and vigor, which made it a bustling community. There were shoe stores, there was a grocery store, furniture store, drugstore, professional offices of various kinds. My father's office was in this area. But as happened in so many other communities in the United States, the freeway came and simply destroyed the area that we called Deep Greenwood. It ceased to be the flourishing community that it had been, and indeed, many of the businesses closed, others moved away, and it became almost a silent city. It was unable to recover from the devastation of the freeway and urban renewal the way it had overcome the riots in the early part of the 20s.
In 1931, John Hope Franklin went to Nashville, Tennessee, and enrolled at Fisk University, the outstanding historically black institution.
I had been valedictorian of the senior class at Little Booker T. Washington High School. But when I got to Fisk University and found out that there were literally dozens of valedictorians and salutatorians from their high school classes now in my freshman class, it was a very sobering experience. And I knew that the competition was going to be keen, that I had to take my work seriously there. It was in my very first weeks at Fisk that I met Aurelia Whittington. My sister introduced us, and then Aurelia said, "You're going shopping, would you bring me back something?" And she indicated what she would like to have, some chocolate-covered peanuts. And I gallantly said that I would. And I did that very important piece of shopping, delivered her package to her, and asked if I could see her again. And that was the beginning of a 60-odd year romance.